The Talk Shop Candidate Awareness Tour continues in Studio 255 at the Laramie Plains Civic Center, brought to you today by Pole Mountain Pharmacy, dedicated to the health and wellness of Southeast Wyoming from their location at 4th and Harney. Our opportunity today with candidate for Albany County Clerk, Mark Armstrong. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
It is a good day to be in Laramie, Wyoming. Albany County is alive and well, and Laramie Jubilee Day is underway in the Gem City.
Beautiful time of year.
Yeah, you were recently at the Laramie League of Women Voters Forum.
Yes.
At the Albany County Public Library. I want to remind everybody those forums continue every Thursday, 7 p.m. Roughly till 9 in the evening at the Albany County Public Library.
By the time you meet and greet and shake hands and get out of there, but it's all good.
Yeah, and in that forum, you're asked several questions, and you're given 60 to 90 seconds apiece to handle some really significant questions for Albany County. What was that experience like for you as a candidate?
I would hate to say this, but it was delicious.
Yeah.
I should have had some Chianti to go with it. I think that honest answers are much easier than contrived answers that try to blind people of the truth.
One of the first questions posed at the League of Women Voters was one regarding your values. And your answer, different than anyone else's on the panel. Why don't you share that as you recount that and tell us a little bit about yourself and why that vision and why those values are so important to you?
Well, I'm a sinner just like everybody else, but I try to live a Christ-based life. And Mark 10:44 says, if you're going to be a chieftain, you will be a slave to the people you represent. And I don't see that as much as I would like in our elected officials. So servant leadership is what I'll bring to the office. I will work for the people, not the government employees. I will work hard, very knowledgeable about budgets and constraining costs.
What's your background in budget specifically that the voters should know beginning July 21st with early voting in the Wyoming primary?
Company man, I've been that. Runs $1 million a day operation.
Who'd you do that with?
RMP. They provide geologists and company men to oil rig services, and you are required to do the budgeting for $1 million a day.
What's the budget responsibility of the Albany County Clerk's office?
It's about $100 million a year, right in there. And also, I managed 40 engineers as society holding properties, which bought Earth Metrics. I was their senior engineering geologist and managed about 40 in their support staff. And, these are high-level engineers doing high-level projects, from toxic cleanups to EIRs, development, all sorts of things like that. But they're also, SHP is the people that built the channel. And they also pin buildings, excavate under them, and build parking garages. Been a part of those kind of projects. So,
and all of those experiences important to the details required of the Albany County Clerk's office?
I believe so. I believe that I understand the management requirements of people and how people interact, and how that I can motivate people to do the best job they can. And I'm very pro-oriented in people, but I want to work for the people and not the government employees.
When it comes to supervision, how many employees would you recommend for the Albany County Clerk's Office? How many do they have now, and how many would you see being the most effective use of public monies?
They have 13 now, I believe, in the clerk's office, and that's from the outside looking in, that's about right. That's appropriate. I can't say I would cut or add employees at this time because I don't know.
But with respect to your budget analysis at the League of Women Voters, you found a few mentionables with respect to areas you would cut.
Yes, this isn't personnel. This is wasteful spending, in my opinion. $70,000 a year to lease equipment. Now, Kayla may know more about that than I do, but I'd like to know who the leaseor is. And it's copy equipment. Every company I've ever worked for, including Snowy Mountain Lodge, we own our copy equipment. Earth Engineers own their own copying equipment. Also, paying dues to the County Clerks Association, so the County Clerks Association can lobby in what appears to be against the public interest in terms of more government spending. I never heard the Clerks Association go over and ask for less government spending, so I would not be in favor of paying those dues. And
with respect to that answer, you're given 90 seconds in each area. How did you feel about that time frame in order to answer the questions? Was it sufficient, or would you have liked more time? And if so, which topic would you like to cover that in greater depth that you weren't able to on the League of Women Voters forum?
So I went up against the stop sign twice, I believe, and I don't know.
For those that don't know, the forum gives you a 30-second, a 60-second, and a 90-second stop sign. As a forum participant, was that maddening? What was that like?
It didn't stop me, but they never cut my mic and told me to shut up. So, but because I maybe went over 5 seconds or something.
So you were comfortable with that. You mentioned Snowy Mountain Lodge, and you and your spouse are new owners of that business in Albany County.
It's a 100-year-old facility built by Dr. Knight and 5 students. It's a science camp. It's in a beautiful location. It's very iconic. We're going through some struggles, shall we say? I deal with Department of Health. They're great, really, but I also deal with DEQ and EPA and. I think government's a little too big.
Well, knowing the challenges that you've faced at Snowy Mountain Lodge, knowing in your life the governmental challenges that face citizens across America, what would you advocate with respect to the clerk's office in serving the people of Albany County?
Well, as I said at the League of Women Voters, everybody else wanted bigger buildings and more seats and better bathrooms for government employees. I want the people to be able to look at government records. So I want government transparency. So if you file a public records request with the county, and I had an unlimited budget, I would give you legal advice or legal counsel so you could sue the county. Well, that happened with me. I had to sue the county to get public records. $10,000. That's, to me, way too much money to have to spend to get a public record. And if I'm your clerk, if it's a public record, I will make sure it's public. You ask for it, and I have the ability to give it to you, I will.
What restrictions are mandated by law with respect to information in the Albany County Clerk's office?
So one of them is the list of voters cannot have their email address. So if Kayla's giving emails, that's a kind of a violation of that. I have some emails. I'll send them, but I didn't get them off the list from the county. So there's also your private information, like your social security number and things that must be redacted from public records, and that's by law.
In your recent memory, your request that you made for the most recent public record, where you required basically any government entity has up to 30 days by which to deliver, and there are some other stipulations in 7 days. You didn't need to be notified of that. How were you treated with respect to your instance of public record request?
Well, so I believe you're referring to the videotape.
October 8th.
Right. So
you filed after being elected.
I've actually filed public records requests since then. But we'll first talk about the October 8th request.
Right.
So it came back denied, and there was a court hearing where Kayla said, it's not a public record. I'm sorry. The clerk's office said there's not a public record. And then the sheriff's office said it's a public, it's a threat to security of the building. Well, the judge ruled the clerk's office erred in their determination of public records, and that the sheriff was wrong saying the doors are open here all day long. It's not a security risk to give him tapes, because the judge actually looked at the video, and he did a good job. And it would have been nice if I would have got my fees back. I think there's federal guidance that say you should, and we should have asked earlier in the case. But I then asked for the 2020 video of the same room. So the judge has already ruled that that's a public record, shouldn't be destroyed. The cameras were there, yet I was told they don't have them. So very untransparent. So I will give the people of the county transparency so they know what they're spending their money on. If they have a question about something the county is doing and there's a public record, I will give them the public record.
Under transparency in your campaign materials, you talk about poverty rate being the highest in the state of Wyoming, double the national average.
Yes.
How important is that in relative to the clerk's office operation is that for you?
If you don't have, so if you're going to do business in the county and you don't have a good feeling about the government staying in their lane, being transparent about what they do, you're not going to invest millions of dollars to bring your business here. So a government that's transparent and open and honest will bring in business, because they can trust a government that's transparent, open, and honest.
So you see the Albany County Clerk's office as an integral opportunity, setting the culture for tomorrow's business culture growing in Albany County.
I find that a great way to put it. If the culture isn't transparent, the business won't come, because they can find an equally good place. Gem City's an amazing place to live, born here, amazing place. But if you have a system that isn't going to tell you what you need to know as a business, it becomes difficult to spend that millions of dollars to go open a new business here.
We've covered transparency. We've covered fiscal responsibility in part. Take your background and how will you assure election integrity?
I'll follow the law and make sure that the keys are in an envelope after calibration. First of all, I'll calibrate the equipment properly. I have more than a high school diploma. I have lots of education, lots of statistics. I understand that your deck has to have variance in it to calibrate. Well, it appears that the clerk's office didn't do that before, so they had to recalibrate because the Republican Party caught them and said, you can't do it. Statistics don't matter if you don't have variance in your deck. So, first of all, there's that. Then I will obey the law on after calibration. I'll put the keys in an envelope and the record of the seal, and I'll sign the seal. A Republican will sign the seal, and a Democrat will sign the seal, and those keys will stay locked away until after voting is done. And then, when voting is done, I will release the early votes and the absentee ballots as soon as possible. I won't wait till midnight to release absentee ballots because it's an appearance, and I think people need to have a confidence in their elections and voting. Then every vote, everyone who is eligible to vote will be allowed to vote, and that vote will be counted once.
To this point in your career, what experience do you have directly with the Albany County Clerk's Office functions and responsibility?
Above and beyond a marriage license, a business license, a liquor license, election shenanigans.
You're a trained election judge previously,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
And
I've also
would you make any change with respect to election judge training?
Well, again, I'd follow the law. It may only be a Secretary of State rule at H2, I believe, but it's also Stalinistic to let people that are on the ballot handle ballots. It's bad practice, to say the least, and it doesn't give people confidence that their elections are handled properly. And there's a call out for the precinct men and women in that. And I have an affidavit from two people that indicate Kayla knew this. Kayla absolutely knew this. I'm sorry. But then, so did the Democrat Party. So Sharon Cumby should never have been an election judge. It just shouldn't have happened.
What's distinctly different to you, or according to the law, with respect to anyone on the ballot? And you were on the ballot as well, and as an election precinct, you were a precinct man on the ballot. Did you handle ballots?
I did.
So what's different according to the law?
Well, the law cuts out precinct people, my understanding. And so I'm not a lawyer, but it's tradition that they've always been allowed to be election men and women. they're involved in the process. They know the process, and you could say the same thing about an election person, but typically a precinct person, if they sign up, they serve. In a city council position, numerous people are running. Those are paid positions. Those people handle public funds, and precinct people help the party. That's what they do. They don't handle public funds, while elected officials do. So there's the line in the sand, basically, is that on one side of this, precinct men and women don't handle public funds, while elected officials do. And therefore, they should not be handling ballots that they are on. And let's remember, God gives us rain, and some people want to tax that.
When it comes to your candidacy for Albany County Clerk, your campaign is based on transparency, election integrity, and fiscal responsibility. The last item with respect to fiscal, the county commissioners in Albany County, they decide how the clerk's office will function, when they will do an election, and so forth. In your view, election, the May 5th SPET election, was that an opportunity for fiscal responsibility of a different kind than we took in Albany County?
Well, the county spent $15,000, the city spent $15,000, so there was share. That's $30,000 to run an election where I've talked to lots of people who didn't know about it. Others have to come to town. All the voting places are in the rural areas like Centennial and Harmony are closed, and you have to drive in a fog, which was just horrible, soupy fog that day, to come from Snowy Mountain Lodge to town to vote. It was dangerous.
Should one election be operated differently than another election?
No.
May 5th, no voting location in Centennial, Wyoming, none, I believe, a Harmony school. Those are traditionally, those have been election locations, balloting locations. And so is that a change? Would you advocate consistency with former or?
Not only would I advocate consistency, but there's a question in my mind. If you're going to exclude the rural communities, first you don't tell them, you don't.
What would you do with respect to notification?
The law, but you don't follow the intent of the law by making sure people are informed about an election. And then in that way, you exclude the rural communities, which is typically they want less government spending. And then you get a 1 penny. So let's not call it a 1 penny. It's 1% of economic activity is a better way to look at that. It's 1% of everything not everything, but a significant amount of what you spend. And sales tax is regressive, and so it's disappointing for me to see a special election, which is always a lower turnout, and then a gerrymandered situation where you don't inform the community. You do your legal requirement, but you don't follow the intent of that. And then you get a new building for $40 million.
Talk more about public information. What would you do differently with respect to? Would you advocate for an additional 14th person assigned to public information?
I think we can find by buying a copy machine or instead of that lease and then not paying dues. Now we're at $120,000. That's a pretty good salary for a 14th person who would advocate for information to give to the people so they know what's on the election, how to get there, what is the government doing with our money, and then so that they know. The people have the right to know.
Are there any, as you desire the election of yourself, Albany County Clerk in 2026 election, you're unopposed in the primary, and that voting begins July 21st through August 18th. Mm-hmm. What's important to voter turnout from your perspective for people to decide on or know about you as a candidate for Albany County Clerk going into July 21st or upcoming November 3rd that people should know before they go to the polls about Mark Armstrong?
I'll represent them. I won't represent. You look at the League of Women Voters, everyone there that was currently in office advocated for more government. I think we have sufficient government. And so I'll stand that line. And the clerk does the budget. The clerk can influence the county commissioners on what that spending is. And so I think the people need a voice in how our money is spent and how transparent the government truly is. You can give lip service to transparency, but I have 28 no's on we're not going to give you that public record. A man who died of COVID, I think his name was Leon, also had 30 or 40 no's on transparency, asking for what are definitely public records, and they got no's. And then you go to the ombudsman, and the ombudsman says, it looks like this is a public record, but you're going to have to sue them to get it. And then you get legal costs. And just the nightmare stress of having to go fight with the government. It's, the people shouldn't have to do that. And I'll make sure that if it's a public record, you'll get it. I'll be very transparent.
Mark Armstrong, for Albany County Clerk, our guest today on the Talk Shop. The Candidate Awareness Tour 2026 resumes with all candidates in all races, local, county, state, and federal, invited to the program because we believe the campaign trail runs through our classroom. The best vote is an informed vote. And in doing that, we appreciate your time showing up. Mark Armstrong, today's guest for Albany County Clerk.
Thank you, Eric.